Fox 13 News at 6 starts with breaking news. Take a look at this picture. In a story that you will only see on Fox 13, this is a convicted killer. Right now, he is on the run after the Shelby County Jail released him.
Now, this was a sudden change for Anthony Green. A jury convicted him of murder, and only 38 minutes later, the jail set him free.
Fox 13's Troyce Grant joins us live downtown at 201. Troyce, Fox 13 learned that this wasn't really an issue of just bad timing. Walk us through what happened.
Yes, so Anthony Green was here in jail at 201 Poplar.
Pooh Shiesty is reportedly under investigation for allegedly helping one of his closest homies escape from prison. And this wasn't just anybody. We're talking about a convicted murderer who somehow walked out of jail just 38 minutes after being found guilty. Let that sink in. A full jury found this man guilty of first-degree murder, and less than an hour later, he's strolling out the front door like he paid a parking fine. Now the feds believe Pooh Shiesty may have been helping keep him hidden ever since. This sounds like something straight out of a movie, but it's unfolding in real life right now in Memphis. So buckle up, because what I'm about to break down is absolutely wild. Before we get into how Pooh allegedly got pulled into this situation, we need to set the stage and understand exactly who we're dealing with. The man who escaped goes by the name Anthony Green, but in the streets, he's known as Choa, and Choa isn't some random guy. He's deeply connected to the same Memphis circle that runs tight with Pooh Shiesty in the entire 1017 camp. Memphis streets are different, fam. Everybody knows everybody, and loyalty out there runs deeper than blood. To really grasp this bond, you have to understand Memphis street culture. This isn't like other cities where crews are scattered and disconnected. In Memphis, especially areas like South Memphis and Whitehaven, the street network is extremely tight. Pooh Shiesty came up in this environment, grinding from nothing. And the people he came up with are the same ones he still stands beside today. CHOA_ was one of those day one homies. They were running together long before the fame, before the record deal with Gucci Mane's 1017 Records, and before any real success. That's the level of loyalty we're talking about here. The kind of loyalty where you'd risk everything because that's your brother, not by blood, but by circumstance, by survival. Now, let me take you all back to June 2020, because that's where this entire story really begins. Memphis Whitehaven area. It's a hot summer night, and a 27-year-old man named Octavius Adkins is sitting in his car at the intersection of Shelby Drive and Neely Road. He's minding his business, maybe on his phone, maybe waiting on somebody. We don't know for sure. What we do know is that out of nowhere, a white Mercedes SUV pulls up, and that's when everything goes left. According to police reports and witness statements, someone inside that white Mercedes opened fire on Atkins' car. Multiple shots, no hesitation, broad daylight type _. Octavius Adkins was pronounced dead right there at the scene. Fam gone in an instant. But it didn't end there. A 49-year-old man sitting in another nearby vehicle was also struck by gunfire. He survived, but the message was loud and clear. Whoever carried this out was on some serious timing. Now here's where it gets even darker. After the shooting, that white Mercedes SUV disappeared. But Memphis police didn't waste time, they got to work immediately. Just hours later, they located the same vehicle behind a building, completely burned out. Somebody torched that car in an attempt to destroy evidence. And that right there tells you this wasn't random. This was calculated. This was someone who knew exactly what they were doing and understood how investigations work. Someone trying to make sure there was no DNA, no fingerprints, no trail left behind, with no ballistic evidence able to directly tie the weapon to that vehicle. The Memphis Police Department kept digging. After months of detective work reviewing surveillance footage, interviewing witnesses, and carefully piecing together the timeline, they finally identified their suspect, Anthony Green, better known in the streets as Choa Wop. Police issued a warrant for his arrest, and months later, he was finally caught during a routine traffic stop by a Mississippi Highway Patrol officer. Choa Wop was taken into custody and charged with first-degree murder for the killing of Octavius Adkins. But here's where things start getting complicated. While Choa Wop sat in jail waiting on his murder trial, he also had another case pending, a theft charge. Obviously nowhere near as serious as murder, but this detail matters. He was granted bond on that theft charge while still being held on the murder case. So technically, he posted bail for one charge, but remained locked up for the more serious one. Stay with me now. Fast forward to September 24th, 2025. Choa Wop's murder trial finally begins. He stands before a jury as they hear everything: the surveillance footage, witness testimony, forensic analysis of the burned Mercedes, all of it. Prosecutors methodically laid out their case, showing how Choa Wop was the shooter, how he tried to destroy evidence, and how his actions took one life and injured another innocent man who just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. After deliberation, the jury returns with their verdict: guilty. Guilty of first-degree murder on Tennessee. Fam, a conviction like that means mandatory life in prison. No early release, no shortcuts. This isn't a do a few years and come home situation. This is a your life is over type of sentence. So everyone in that courtroom, the prosecutors, the judge, the victim's family believed the same thing. Choa Wop was about to be processed and sent straight to a maximum security prison for the rest of his life. After 5 long years, the victim's family likely felt a sense of relief, believing justice had finally been served. But that's not what happened. And I need you all to listen closely, because this is where the entire story goes completely off the rails. After the guilty verdict, Choa Wop should have been immediately taken back into custody. His bonds should have been revoked. The paperwork should have been processed to reflect that he was now a convicted murderer serving a life sentence. The court clerk was supposed to update the system and send the conviction paperwork straight to the jail, and make sure everyone understood that this man could not be released under any circumstances. But somewhere between that courtroom and the jail system, somebody completely badly at 201 Poplar, the main jail facility in Memphis. When Choa Wop's paperwork came through, the only documents on file showed that he had posted bond on his theft charge, the paperwork confirming he had just been convicted of first-degree murder, and that all bonds were supposed to be revoked, hadn't been processed yet. Those documents were likely sitting on someone's desk, stuck in a bureaucratic nightmare, or buried under hundreds of other cases moving through the system that day. Either way, they weren't in the computer. And in the jail system, if it's not in the system, it might as well not exist. So what did the jail do? They released him. They allowed a convicted murderer to walk straight out the front door. 38 minutes, fam. 38 minutes after being found guilty of first-degree murder. Choa Wop was back on the streets of Memphis. His attorney, Brandon Hall, even confirmed this to the media. Speaking to Fox 13, Hall admitted it was a clerical error paperwork mistake that allowed his client to be released. And here's the wild part. Hall said, the jail is usually slow. He constantly complains that his clients, people who post bond on minor charges, sit in intake for up to 2 days waiting to be processed. But people who should be released immediately end up stuck for 48 hours because the system is so backed up and inefficient. Yet somehow, this time they moved with lightning speed. The one time the system worked fast, it was to release a man just convicted of murder. You really can't make this up. The Memphis Police Department realized the mistake the very next day, September 25, 2025. Someone finally processed the conviction paperwork, saw what had happened, and immediately hit the panic button. A new warrant was issued for Anthony Green, charging him again with first-degree murder, employment of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and attempted first-degree murder for the 49-year-old victim who survived. But by then Choa Wop was gone. Completely off the radar, vanished. He had nearly a full 24-hour head start, and in that time he could have been anywhere out of state, in a safe house or somewhere nobody was looking. Somewhere deep in the country where nobody would ever think to look. And this is where Pooh Shiesty's name starts getting pulled into the conversation. See, the streets have been talking, fam. And according to multiple sources and what investigators are allegedly digging into, they believe Pooh Shiesty has been helping Choa Wop stay hidden. Now I know what y'all are thinking. Pooh Shiesty is locked up himself right now, serving time on federal charges related to that Miami shooting. So how is he helping someone while sitting behind bars? That's the thing about street loyalty. Even from prison, Pooh is allegedly still making moves, sending money, providing resources, and connecting Choa with people who can keep him protected and off the radar. Let me break down what investigators believe is happening, because this is some organized first. Choa can't just be on the run with no cash. He needs money to eat, to move around, to pay for places to stay, to switch locations, to change his appearance, and to make sure people stay quiet. When you're a fugitive, everything costs, and it costs constantly. And word on the street is that Pooh Shiesty has been funneling money to Choa Wop through different channels. Whether that's family members, mutual friends, or trusted people in their circle, the cash is allegedly flowing. We're talking thousands of dollars, enough to keep someone comfortable while dodging a murder warrant. Now here's how that money movement likely works. Because it's not as simple as Pooh just wiring cash from prison. Even locked up Pooh still has access to incoming music royalties, investments, and accounts managed by people on the outside. Investigators believe he's directing trusted individuals, maybe family, maybe close associates, maybe legal intermediaries, to move money in ways that can't be easily traced back to Choa. That could mean cash apps under different names, sending smaller amounts through multiple people, using cryptocurrency to make transactions harder to track, or even moving physical cash hand. This is known as structuring, and it's designed to avoid detection. The feds are good at following money, but when funds are broken up and passed through multiple layers, it becomes much harder to prove where it's ultimately ending up. Second, safe houses. When you're on the run, you can't just crash anywhere. You need places where you can stay low, where nobody's asking questions, and where snitching is completely off the table. Investigators believe Pooh Shiesty has been connecting Choa to safe houses through his network in Memphis and surrounding areas, locations owned or controlled by people loyal to the crew, people who understand that talking to the police is the ultimate violation, and people who are willing to risk catching charges themselves just to help a homie. We're talking about trap houses, rental properties under fake names, and homes owned by individuals so far removed from the situation that police wouldn't even think to check them. Resources, burner phones, fake IDs, transportation, everything you need to stay mobile and completely off the radar. Choa_ can't use his real phone because law enforcement can track that through cell towers and GPS. He can't drive his own car either, because his license plate is flagged in databases across the country. So he needs constant access to new phones that get used for a few days and then tossed, vehicles that aren't registered to him, and trusted people who can move him around without drawing attention. And investigators believe Pooh Shiesty's connections are supplying exactly that. This is where the Memphis street network becomes key. Pooh Shiesty knows people in every neighborhood, every area code, every corner of the city. His reach stretches beyond Tennessee into Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, and across the South. With just a few calls from prison, he could allegedly set up an underground railroad-type system for Choa, moving him from place to place and keeping him one step ahead of law enforcement. Now you might be asking, how do they even know Pooh Shiesty is involved? For starters, the FBI and Memphis police have been closely monitoring communications. When you're in federal custody, your phone calls are recorded, your mail is read, and your visits are monitored. Everything is watched, so if Pooh is making moves, investigators are listening for coded language, tracking communication patterns, and analyzing who he's speaking to and how often, even if nothing directly incriminating is said. Law enforcement knows how to read between the lines, but it's not just about what's being said. It's also about patterns and associations. As investigators track where Choa_ may have been spotted, who's helping him, and where the money is coming from, a lot of those threads allegedly lead back to people connected to Pooh Shiesty. They're digging through financial records, phone logs, and surveillance footage from suspected locations. They're questioning people, leaning on lower-level associates, and offering deals to anyone willing to cooperate. The streets in Memphis are tight-knit, but they're not impenetrable. Somebody always knows something. And when the feds start applying real pressure, people start talking. Maybe someone who got pulled over with a stack of cash and doesn't want a money laundering charge. Maybe it's someone who let Choa stay at their house for a week and now realizes they could be charged with harboring a fugitive. When people start facing prison time themselves, loyalty starts to crack. Everybody knows Choa_ and Pooh Shiesty go way back. They come from the same circles. They've got mutual homies. In that world, when one of your people is in trouble, you don't turn your back. You help no matter what. Even if it means risking a federal conspiracy, charge yourself. That's the code. Pooh Shiesty has always lived by that code. In his music, in interviews before going to prison, he talked about loyalty being everything, about never switching on your people, about keeping it real no matter the cost. And now, allegedly, he's still living by that code, even if it could add more years to his sentence. But let's be clear, helping a fugitive is a serious crime. We're talking federal charges, conspiracy to harbor a fugitive, obstruction of justice, possibly aiding and abetting. If investigators can prove Pooh Shiesty has been sending money or resources to help Choa evade capture, he could be facing additional years on top of the 5-year gun sentence he's already serving for the Miami shooting. And it's not just Pooh. Anyone involved, friends, associates, people who provided safe houses or transportation, they could all be facing charges. The feds don't play when it comes to harboring fugitives, especially convicted murderers. Meanwhile, Choa is still out there. He's on the run, and Memphis police are leaving no stone unturned, putting pressure on known associates, checking every possible hideout. His face is likely plastered across social media, Crime Stoppers websites, and local news. Rewards are being offered for tips, yet somehow he's remained hidden for months. That tells you one thing: he's got a serious support network. You don't stay off the grid this long without help. Not in 2025. Not with cameras, facial recognition, and constant surveillance everywhere. One slip, and you're caught. Now let's zoom out and look at what this really means. This story isn't just about one man escaping prison or a rapper allegedly helping him. It's about the system failing at every level. How does a convicted murderer walk out of jail because of a paperwork error? How is that even possible in 2025 when we have computers, databases, and processes designed to prevent exactly this? Yet here we are, a man convicted of murder walks out in under an hour. That's not just shocking. That's a failure of the justice system, and it puts the entire community at risk. Think about it. Choa_ is out there on the run. He's already killed one person and shot another. What's to stop him from doing it again if he feels threatened or cornered? And what about the victim's family, who waited 5 years for justice, only to discover the man who killed their loved one is walking free? That's psychological torture for the victim's family. They can't feel safe knowing he's still out there somewhere, possibly even still in Memphis. And then there's the loyalty factor. In the streets, loyalty is everything. When your homie needs you, you show up. No questions.
No conditions. But where's the line? At what point does loyalty turn into complicity in something far bigger and far more dangerous? If these allegations are true, Pooh Shiesty is risking additional prison time, possibly decades more, to help a convicted murderer stay free. That's the level of loyalty we're talking about. But it also raises a hard question. Is it worth it? Especially when innocent people could be hurt, when you're already locked up, when you could be coming home in a few years, and you're throwing your future away for someone else that you'll have to remember. Choa was convicted of killing Octavius Atkins, a 27-year-old man who had his entire life ahead of him. He also injured another innocent person in that shooting. These aren't just names in a case file. These are real lives, real families, people who loved Octavius, who miss him every single day, and who will never get him back because of what happened at that intersection. And now, because of a clerical error, and allegedly because of help from people like Pooh Shiesty, the man responsible is walking free instead of serving a life sentence. That's not justice for the victims. That's not safety for the community. But this is the reality of the streets, fam. This is a culture where loyalty can outweigh everything else, where the code matters more than the law, where people are willing to risk it all for their homies. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just telling you what it is. This is the world Pooh Shiesty and Choa come from, and it's the same world they're still operating in, even from behind bars and while on the RU&SO. Where does that leave us? Right now, the investigation is ongoing. Federal agents and Memphis police are working overtime trying to track down Choa, and identify everyone who's been helping him. Pooh Shiesty's name keeps coming up, and if they can build a solid case, new charges could be coming. Every phone call from prison is being analyzed. Every connection is being watched. The net is tightening, and it's only a matter of time before something gives. And when they finally catch Choa, because trust me, they will, everyone who helped him is going to face consequences. That's how this works. The feds don't just want the fugitive. They want everyone who made it possible for him to stay free. They'll use that arrest to apply pressure, flip people, and uncover the full picture. That's when we'll really find out how deep Pooh Shiesty's involvement goes, if there was any at all. For the rest of us watching this unfold, it's a wild reminder that truth really is stranger than fiction. You can't make this __. A convicted murderer walks out of jail in 38 minutes, and one of Memphis's biggest rappers is allegedly helping him stay hidden from behind bars. That alone shows you how deep loyalty runs in the streets, and how dangerous things get when the system breaks down. Stay tuned, because this story isn't over. Not even close. And when more details drop, you already know I'll be right here breaking it all down. Until then, stay safe, keep it real, and remember, the streets are always watching. Peace.